All right. I think I see colonies in there. Feel free to share the space. Brother, I'm just excited to have a conversation and get it recorded, so, we can showcase all the good truths that we reveal today. But anyways, how's it going, colonies? Welcome to the space.
Yo, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me on. And yeah, we got to make sure we have this on record.
Yeah, man. No, it's nice to meet you. I appreciate you. Yeah. So it's just tell me a bit about yourself and what you'd like to talk about because there are so many topics. But I tried
Yeah.
to I try to show a synopsis of who you are basically in the title. But yeah, go ahead, man, and welcome again.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. My name is Colin Landles. I go by Colonies. And yeah, I mean, there's no avoiding it. My identity is out there. Let's just say I've been doing YouTube and streaming content since virtually the beginning of online gaming content. I started a YouTube channel when I was 9 years old. Was posting like NBA live videos and like room tours, very cringe stuff. Then I progressed to live streaming as Justin TV turned into Twitch. I started streaming in like 2011. I became a partnered streamer in 2020. But really, I think my connection to the Smash community and the most relevant information here is, I began playing Smash 4, Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, for those that don't know, in like 2014 when it first launched. But, 3DS right before that too. I got really into the Smash doc. I got really into the Melee side of the community in terms of a content watching perspective. I tried my hand at it, but really I was like passionate about Smash 4 when that dropped. And yeah, I went all in on that. Sorry. I went all in on that and became like a PR player, you know, became a content creator. Eventually went on to live with like people like Tweak and Cosmos and other, prominent people. And yeah, I kind of took this detour into politics in my 20s. I've always been a political person, but I was like a conspiracy head like as a young guy, and I really kept all of this this part of my personality completely private, and I am nervous to talk about it in a way, but at the same time, it's like the truth has to be said, and I think it's time that I finally get my voice out there on some of these matters. That's all I really, what in terms of what we talk about. I mean, yeah, like you said, there's a million topics. I'm willing to go into whatever. Feel free to shoot off at that, but I could also bounce back a couple questions at you, of course. I'd love to get to know
Sure.
you.
No, I appreciate that so much. I mean, obviously, you're so passionate about Smash. You've been a grandfathered into this whole content sphere and covering Smash and playing Smash. So you obviously care about it so much. And then with you being involved in politics, you also have that valuable other perspective or kind of a different lens of how others would see the different social dynamics or sort of what's happening in the
Mm,
divide in Smash.
mhm,
I One of my main complaints is I feel like Smash should be a multicultural international thing where people all come together to enjoy it. I think it's such a beautiful game. I love
mm.
getting better at Smash and I love going to tournaments and the excitement. It's one of my favorite pastimes. But I've noticed a divide that's been coming in. And yeah, I guess I wanted your perspective on, well, first of all, have you noticed something like that as well? What do you think?
Yeah, no, it's really like you say, there's a divide that, doesn't allow us to fully activate this scene's potential. And the scene's potential really is international. It is multicultural. And that's something that I was struck by heavily as a young guy coming into the tournament scene. It was unbelievable. Like this was the sort of Star Trek utopian society that I had always envisioned as like, a young liberal and stuff. I was definitely very close to the more political aspects of the community at that time as well. Because, like I said, I've always been a political person. And when I was younger, this is cringe, but I'll just go ahead and admit it. Like, I was like a Bernie Sanders supporter. I was really, I even sort of like, I kind of supported Hillary at the time. And I would be like, saying things like JD Vance said, like, never Trumper stuff. And it's really funny because at that time in the Smash, in the Smash community, it was sort of like, it was real life in the way that people had differing opinions. People had clashes over cultural differences, background differences, certain social stuff that flies in certain environments, it doesn't in others. But really, it was sort of like you say, the love of the game. And most importantly, the love of that process of improving at the game and actively engaging in the tournament scene and putting yourself out there and challenging yourself to be out of your comfort zone. I think that was everything that Smash was about. I think we've seen the divide really come in the fact that there is sort of a desire for a comfort zone being like pushed heavily in the community. It's not exactly obvious why. And yeah, I think that's what we're gonna really try to dive into here.
Yeah, I mean, it's very obvious that there are like there are people that are prioritizing comfort over the game. I mean, a competitive venture is not necessarily a comfortable one. I'm sure you'd
Sure.
agree, right? Like you're trying to get better at all costs. You're
In
learning. You're
essence,
getting
it's the
feedback.
opposite, like in effect, really what you're doing is putting yourself in that challenge. It's like, Daigo says, like, he looked at tournaments as like a test. When people take tests, they are stressed, they are under pressure, and most importantly, they're being judged. I think that's really the essence of a competitive environment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're competing, you're gonna have maybe you travel to compete. I've been flown out to compete before. I've gone to the UK. I've going to, and there's going to be a crowd. They might not necessarily like you. You might
No,
be a
that's
foreigner,
super real, man.
right? Right. You got to be ready to actually fend for yourself and try and fight for your outcome that you want.
Yeah, and what it does is it reveals the immature parts of our personalities. I think, like everybody knows in sports or in competitive gaming that people crash out, people rage, people break shit in their own homes, like expensive, thousands of dollars worth of damage, public embarrassment, humiliation, and I think we've all been the subject of that sort of situation at one time or another, which is super unique about, competitive games or competitive environments. So it's almost like this humiliation is built into that process of becoming a part of the community at large and learning that, okay, everyone is going to fail. Everyone is going to be exposed to things that they aren't comfortable with. Yet we see like an active kind of gatekeeping process now, which is, I do think, arresting the development of the younger smashers. And that's something that it's definitely left me feeling perplexed as to how we bring back that culture when there is this like Trumpian sort of polemic divide that really is like something that I'm looking to try to cross this boundary. And it's taken me a long time to even formulate like, basic core beliefs because it's not obvious to me that this is something that we're gonna, you know, reach across the aisle on and
Yeah,
hash
it's
out.
because it's just become so divided. It's become like you cannot bear to see with the other side. And I mean, that's why I started trying to talk to
Mhm.
people here. And I so appreciate you coming in conversation. It's rare that people want to come on. And even just yesterday I had like a Marxist come on. I want to just
Yeah.
get into his brain, see what's going on. He's calling people Nazis all over the place, Nazi, Nazi,
Right,
Nazi.
right. Just like
But
really apply a little pressure and see what's there. I totally support that.
yeah, like that's how we're gonna be able to figure it out. But yeah, so one of the biggest problems as it pertains to Smash, I think, which is be great to talk about, is that some of these bans, people are getting banned for their political views. I mean, we have
Yeah.
Luigi Gauchard. He got banned for liking Trump and posting about Trump. Literally, once they saw that he liked Trump,
For
they
being a
dug into it.
maggot. Yeah.
I've never asked first time I heard that one. That's funny.
Really? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. For being a MAGA guy. Maggot. They call them
Yeah,
maggots, I
for
guess.
supporting the orange guy. That's what we call him in my house. We don't say his name. No, I'm just kidding.
Orange guy. Yeah. Like, the white supremacist.
Drumpf. Yeah, Drumpf.
Whatever it is. Like, and
Colbert or
the
whatever.
thing
Yeah.
the thing is like it's that definitely when it goes too far, right? Because when you look at the political climate or demographic, let's say like half of people
Sure.
roughly they like Trump, or they would at least vote from over the other guy. So it doesn't make sense when you care about the growth of Smash or prioritize the game that you would um, censor and kick people out for holding political opinions. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't know about that case in specific, and really, I think that's something that has been like it's almost nauseating the specifics of these kind of situations. But that's something I respect that you guys do a lot of, and a lot of people do a lot of good work in compiling these people's like cases and really like staying on it. Because I can imagine, I mean, as we saw with the hack situation, it's like when you are outcasted, you really do feel like you are like in the corner being surrounded. There's nothing you can do, so it almost feels like, to put somebody in that position is almost like a terrible thing to do. For it being over political beliefs, I do understand the idea that, these beliefs and the rhetoric, it does definitely activate some sort of like real world consequences. I don't necessarily love the, idea of going to defend all of these guys because in my view, it's like a lot of these guys would stab me in the back at the first chance. I don't know these people necessarily. And with individuals that, are inflammatory to the point of like drawing that level of attention, to me, it's almost like, you got to be prepared. You got to be charismatic. You got to have like your head on your shoulders. You can't be a midwit. And that's like the challenge, right? That we're all, especially someone like yourself, like putting yourself out there like this every day. That's like the only possible way to really become able to like channel that energy. So when it comes to these bands, it's like, case by case basis, I really don't see many that hold up under scrutiny. But at the same time, it's like I don't know how useful it is for us to channel all of this energy into these guys' situations when I don't know if these young guys are really that serious or stuff like that. So
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I mean, it's like a symptom versus source like relationship, like case by case. Are you going to go case by case, and are you going to
yeah,
try and solve every single one? It's probably unlikely you're going to be able to solve every single one. It's probably unlikely you're going to persuade the whole community into this one case or another. I mean, if you look at the hack situation, how beloved that he was, it still barely only caught above 50% sentiment of people caring about letting hacks back in. There was a lot of people that were saying keep them out, and that's a big problem. So
like
it's
actively campaigning against it. That was always mind blowing to me. That was some of the most like explosive sort of divisiveness that I was like radicalized personally by seeing the way that people actively bad faith would not be able to understand Hax's points. And then instead of like, like when they were confronted with something that was complex to the point that they couldn't quite process it or couldn't stick with it, that they just would side with the authority immediately, regardless of like the moral implications of that. That was shocking. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. They
In
would
so many of
just
these cases, there was something that set off the person to be excluded from the community that is like a real tangible thing. In the hack situation, it was literally he was politically more adept. He was able to actually see things that like the average person doesn't see because he was in an outsider's POV. He was observing the situation from like this deeply empathetic place of like this community is my entire life. No one's gonna believe me. I'm gonna have to make it a 2-hour manifesto. I'm gonna have like the way that he did it to me. I just empathized with that so hard. I related to that so hard. It didn't work necessarily for his situation, and it really like broke my heart. So
yeah, absolutely. And I've been researching. I've been going and talking to his mom.
mm,
Trying. Yeah, I visited his mom's house,
yeah,
and it's like he didn't even include everything that he wanted to, right?
yeah, that's
And
a good
even though
point.
it
I
was
never
two,
even thought about that, but dude,
like
yeah,
there was more that he wanted to include in the
wow.
evidence.zip2, and the evidence.zip2, it was a result of him seeing the community going in direction that he didn't see was good, and he was somebody that cared about the game, its
He's providing a
efficacy.
vision, he was providing his perspective, and he was doing it in a way that really only someone that was so deeply engaged with the community, like someone that deserved a leadership position. So he was making an appeal for authority over the community's like future and doing it in a way where he was proving himself worthy of that. It was just like shocking to see how that was not understood really, I think at large. And in a way, it's almost like it reminds me of a situation like Kanye West, right? Or yeah, it's like somebody who, why would this person derail their trajectory in order to make this point? Situations like that I find just so fascinating. And I find that in the hack situation, like it really is like upsetting deeply and troubling. And I'm glad that you guys were there for his mom. To me, it's like I reached out to her as well. I mean, I lost my father in January, and I've had like a really, I've had a lot of loss in my life, even though I'm only 25. And I kind of felt like, nobody would really understand why she would be tweeting this way, except for someone that was also like, you know, going through that grief. And I just wanted her to know, like, hey, I like at least someone's getting it from that POV as well. Sorry, I know that's kind of noisy here, but yeah, I'm rambling at this point. The main thing I just was trying to piece together here is like the lack of empathy from the so-called empathizers. Yeah.
So what we see here, like a common pattern, is that somebody gets marked out as a target for whatever reason. Doesn't have to be verified, doesn't
Mm,
have to be true, but once they get on that pedestal or that hot seat, their status quickly moves into one that's been crafted and ritualized and consistently over the years of like an untouchable status, and the untouchable status deems you as non-associable, like or can't associate with this person. You have to cut them off. You have to
100%.
hide your relationship with them.
Yeah, actively hide it like at any means necessary to do so. It's pretty insane. Yeah, I just wanted to back that up because that is 100% accurate.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just feel like people don't understand like um a lot of the figureheads in the community, like they operate in that same way that Hacks does because they're also intelligent people, but they just do it completely like, in the behind the shroud of like business, right? And it's like always about there, everyone's getting opportunity. If you are aligning yourself with this certain idea, then you will be deemed appropriate for the future vision of the community. That's kind of what the social climber side of the community really cares about. That maybe is something that people don't understand that well because it is kind of hard to understand on the surface why, it looks like friendships. It looks like a tight knit group of people that work hard together and they travel together and all this. But yeah, I in 2020 I saw it firsthand. I mean, the case of Zero, I think, is really the one that was the most like every single person in the Smash community had a relationship with Zero over that like 10-year span. Nearly every single top player like completely and utterly was not willing to, go out on a line for him. Like that was including me. I was someone who was like I was a big Zero fan as someone that got into the game in like 2014. Like he was obviously the GOAT for my entire first 5, 6 years watching Smash. Like I learned everything from him. I was shocked that people had no reverence for his skill. And I was shocked that it was like a 20, it was like something that was so old. It's just shock. I mean, wow. It's like I've not processed this over 5 years despite thinking about it almost every day, and I'm at the point now where I'm like, "All right, Mac, like, I need to come on. We need to have conversations like this because I don't know what the hell happened to the community that I was a part of for 10 years." Like, it literally like, half the people have become blacklisted, and the other half have, become, like, complicit in it. So,
Yeah, like fear is a really powerful motivator. And when
sure.
people get into that class status where they're banned, oftentimes abuse is justified against them. A lot of tactics, slander, what does it matter if it's not true? They're still banned. They're still a terrible person. And it's really hard to defend that person. You see clear wrongs being done by them, and you're met with a crossroads as somebody who's in the community that knows the truth, and it feels like you're alone. It feels like you're alone because especially before Man a Monthly or 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe when the Me Too movement was happening, there was no way to really come and defend people without you yourself being marked a target one to one, as pretty much as bad as these people that you're trying to defend. When you see that their situations aren't so cut and dry.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's had relationships with some of these canceled people too, like they'll actively like tell you like, "Hey man, like don't ruin your don't go down for me." Don't there becomes this martyrdom complex. And that has such a significant psychological effect on the survivors, quote unquote, of like a fallout like that 2020 summer. And the effect really is that the new generation of players have no real understanding of like it's been obfuscated what diverted the Smash community's like trajectory. They think it's all because of Nintendo. They think it's all because of the Panda Cup or whatever, stuff like this. But really what happened was like the most talented and like some of the most talented, at least, people in the community were canceled. And it really did strike a deep fear into people like myself. I think that's obvious almost in the way that I'm talking, right? Like it's like I don't feel free to completely like let off loose. And that's something that I never really would have felt that way before because I'm not a hateful person and I'm not like this like weird like back doors kind of person. I'm not like one of these social climbers. Like I was just there as like a genuine guy, and I think people really felt that way about me for a long time. And I think I was someone who was able to sort of resist being blacklisted despite being more controversial over the last couple of years because that was something that I really established for the first 5, 6, 7 years of my time in the Smash community is like, hey, I love everyone, down to learn, your guys' perspectives, down to understand the other side, really more than even you are yourself. And like that kind of like ability, I think is something we lost touch with. That even just in the way that the Melee community and the Smash Ultimate community are separated and like it's like this weird like separate but together, completely different player bases, completely different like organization, like different people are interested in different aspects of the Smash community, but it's all being comprehensively nerfed by that fear factor of there is an active like mob mentality that goes against anyone that is on that list of, people that are terrible, people, Nazis, like you guys are called, stuff like that. So I think that's something that we really won't be able to like we won't be able to find we won't be able to find ourselves as a community. We won't be able to like lead from the heart, and we won't have like an authentic like connection with the love for the game if we can't like start like letting people just be themselves.
Yeah, 100% agree. We just have to let people express themselves, hold their various positions, as it is a multicultural, international community. The game is a worldwide phenomenon. Most games that we play. They're shipped out everywhere. They have Japanese versions, NA versions, European versions, even just Melee. You look at it, it's just shipped everywhere. And people have a different perspective on life. The American scene is embarrassing. It has become a complete shame and
Yeah, I see
embarrassment.
you guys are very adamant on this recently. Like this is something I've seen like, from your guys' corner a lot. To me, it's almost like I don't really want to align myself with Saudi Arabia either. I don't know if that's really part of the message or part of the my personal like view of the community. It's like I want to go back to being like grassroots to the point where we're making money based off our success. We're the people that are working the hardest, the people that are actually grinding, like how it was back in the day, the people that were there at the tournaments, that produced the streams, that worked to get the sponsorship deals. That those are the people that are going to be in control of the scene. Like I don't really understand that aspect of it too much, but I do agree that it is like just from a pure logical standpoint, it makes no sense to try to enforce any sort of one-mindedness. Like that is obviously just not realistic. I don't know if that's just like a point where it's like these people's some of these guys like worldviews, like they don't really like accept that anyone could, be on the other side of them. So like even if it's like a radical thing. Like I saw that, at the swooper guy, like he like retweeted something like, it's good to punch Nazis, it's good to kill them, light them on fire, blah blah blah. In the same, moment that he's arguing with you guys in the it's just disgusting. So like I don't really know how we reach across and have conversations when we're coming at it from like this, yeah, we got to talk to everyone. Yeah, we got to understand, we got to be empathetic. This guy died for this shit. Like I don't really understand how like yeah, it's going to be hard because we live in a time we can't control this, but it's extremely radical. Like it's accelerated. There's an acceleration of like radical sentiments, and it's going to seep into the sacred spaces, right? Like as people say, and I think that's really true, and I think it's happened. And I think if we're gonna come to the point where we can kind of go back to just playing for the love of the game and generating like a wealthy, like successful, generative community where everyone's getting these opportunities to become professional gamers, travel for a living. I was at one point in my life, I was getting paid $2,000 a month to literally just exist. Like that's the dream for these young guys that are playing games. That opportunity is like, it's like something that we don't just fall into. You have to work your ass off for that, but you also have to exist in a community that like is generative, is open to, you know, being being able to work with the best people, seeing them for who they are and assigning them like leadership roles. I don't think that's actively happening anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. It's something that we really reminisce on the point where you could be yourself, hold your political values, and still be actually considered for sponsorship. It seems, a lot of the big companies, they have sided with American sentiment, American values solely, and not even purely American, just like leftist, liberalist
Sure.
views, and
The
so it's hard.
zeitgeist, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, radical positions and radically broken communities require radical solutions. And, I want within my lifetime for esports to become whole and for it to be accessible to everybody. And, when it comes to the Saudi thing, I'm sure like Tenrio are, when they come in later, I'd say we give ourselves like 15-30 minutes more, and if you don't mind, we can bring more people in if you want to
Yeah, that'd be
talk with
great.
Henry. Yeah, right, like we can talk more about that with them, but I see it as sort of like an overarching power that lets us, it sets the frame for us to be able to do what we want. Because when we look at the companies
Mhm.
that are in that position now, we can't do what we want. Even if we wanted to be grassroots, it's the sentiment on social media, like it's that they will find you and they will kill you
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah.
Like you can't have a smash fest with me or art or somebody without you having some numbnuts like totally documenting everything and making up 6 Google Docs for some. That's kind of like an exaggeration, but that's what kind of some people do.
I
That's what
think we
occurs.
have an imagined, version of like the quote unquote opposite, the enemy, like the person that is like retweeting, like light you on fire propaganda, pushing the sentiment like that violence is acceptable against you guys. I think when you like have to imagine that person in your head, like when you're formulating, your positions, I can totally understand that sentiment. And it is something I'm open to hearing more about because I do understand that there is like an organizational level that there is a change that can only happen through personnel. It can only happen through like money, organized money. And yeah, I don't really like, that's something that we could definitely go into more later. We could talk about almost anything else, in this remaining 30 minutes. So I'm down to go into whatever.
I think it's important to mark out that the current structure is totally ruthless. And I am not exaggerating when I say that they have a vice grip on the media, on the propaganda of what people think. If you look at Reddit is a great example. There is a vice grip, like I said. You cannot say anything that goes against their specific narrative. It's like a tunnel vision. And like I just wanted to mark that out. Like when moving forward, we have to be ready to fight these narratives that they're going to put out in a very controlled manner. You can see when somebody tried to go against the grain, like the Manalord, for example. The
Mhm.
Manalord, he was in New York. He just wanted to help some of his band friends, these players that he saw that weren't rightfully banned. He saw that it wasn't right. Why would they not be allowed to compete? So he just started up something small, and then it worked out for a good bit. But then soon they started rolling out the propaganda. They started saying, digging stuff up about him, just framing him as someone that's terrible, untouchable. They're trying to force him into that class. And then that's what they did. All of a sudden, man, a monthly, every single person is a rapist. Every single person is a
That's where I'm
pedo.
almost like getting to this point, and I just realized I was on the MacBook microphone that whole time. Damn it! But anyways, I'm getting to this point where it's almost like, dude, fuck it. Like, go ahead and extort. Go ahead and fucking make your manifesto. Document every little thing I say. Dude. At some point, somebody has to reach out to the young guys in the Smash community and say, hey, like, you're not alone in thinking the way you're thinking. You're not alone in feeling the way you're feeling. And like, there is actually ways to do this where we don't have to necessarily, everyone doesn't have to fight that fight, yet there is still roles to be played in which we can like work together, you know, as allies to find a way to make it so that people can play this game, make a living off of it, be individuals, be interesting, be unique people, and like not have to actively deflect, you know, I, I don't know. Like it's something where it's something that I think a lot of people are dealing with under the surface. It's bubbling up under the surface, and there has to be a voice for that. Otherwise, it's going to devolve into like just shouting at each other and shit. Like there has to be like some sort of like leadership role, and yeah.
Yeah, the voice I think is getting a lot louder, thankfully. The real, I guess, divide is probably 85% of people are just like you and me. We don't really care about what people think when it comes to the game. We would love for them to compete, and it's just let people be themselves and we'll figure it out. Just be cordial. And then there seems to be about like 10 to 15% of people who are actually really radical. They see
Hmm.
it as it is a non-negotiable. Anybody that doesn't one-to-one have their views and is absorbed into their monolith is an othered soul that is totally damned and is irredeemable, unless they completely capitulate, in like an ESAM style or something. Like, just to bring up an example, like,
No,
because I
that's
did
such a
notice
good
that,
example, man.
like,
Wow.
just like completely worshiping this ideological cabal or the ideologues or
Yeah, just
whatever it
invert your
is.
entire personality. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and like I can see it up to a certain extent. If you don't have any other sort of grounding, if this game is your life, and then you
Mm-hmm.
could end up like ESAM or Hacks,
100%,
where
dude.
you feel
100%.
like this is your direction. You have to change yourself and adapt. And so that is a really vocal, powerful minority, and it's conversations like this that are going to help it steer it in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm glad you feel that way, man. Because honestly, like, yeah, I think you're 100% spot on with that. I think that's a sentiment that isn't spoken, and I think it's something that, like, people that want to aspire to be professional players and want to be top players, want to be influential members of the community, they are going to have to confront that reality eventually. And what inevitably happens most of the time is that you will sort of just like take the path of least resistance. And up to a certain point, that like living in contradiction can really, it can work. But I just found that there was an extent that it got to where I realized that I was losing my losing what made me like myself, and seeing how it affected other people like ESAM, like I someone that I always think of or like fixate in my mind is like Cody Schwab, like these guys that push this sort of nihilism, this sort of like radical individualism, like this lack of cohesion. Like I do think it does spawn from like you say, that sort of like pressure, that innate pressure to conform into it, to radically support it, to radically change yourself into it, to catch the wave. I think that caught a lot of people up. And I think if I would have rode that wave, I think it would have been massively successful for me. I think I would have been a star. It was something that I really like. It bothers me deeply, you know?
100%, man. And it's a good sacrifice to make because, this life is a test. There's going to be choices for us. But when you look back at your life, you're going to feel fulfilled that you made a correct decision to preserve your humanity, your values, over something like the fame or the success. You got to do it the right way, right? Because when you look uh, what is forced upon these young men, for one of the reasons why I speak out, and even after my ban I'm still striving to help this community, is because I see it as a spiritual obligation. I
Yeah,
know that there's going to be a lot of young men that enjoy video games. Esports is going to continue growing as
100%.
technology gets better, and the thing is, you can't have hundreds of thousands of young men be indoctrinated into wanting to be gay or to be women. That's my value. I don't see that as helpful for society. I see it as personally as demonic. And what do I mean by demonic? Just that
Mhm.
it serves evil. It serves what Satan would want if you see it as a real entity or as a figurative force of evil. I have Sark values I don't move from, but I want to help the next generation be real men. And still, they're going to be pulled into video games, and they're going to like playing video games and get the next console, and the parents are going
Video
to,
games are fucking
right?
awesome, and esports is awesome. And it's like something, it's a dream. And that is the reason why you see like this prevalence in the young people. Like everyone wants to be an esports player, everybody wants to be a YouTuber, streamer, blah, blah, blah. What people don't really understand is that that's not necessarily a trend. It's like you say, this is going to be hundreds of thousands of people funneled into this ecosystem. Like it's only going to continue, it's only going to grow. And yeah, like you say, man, it is a spiritual like tug of war. Like I have no issue with there being like representation for these like people that live this lower lower lifestyle, okay? Where they are always sort of serving like an individualistic sort of their animalistic nature. Like it is very tribal, it is very carnal, it is very about their image, it is very about things that are lesser than like, speaking from the heart or being authentic or, generating like positive effects in society through being charitable, through being like, an example. Like that kind of stuff is always going to leave us feeling shallow when we prioritize like including every single idea regardless of merit at at the basis of like, there is like, I mean, we see it. Like we see it in like the FGC. I mean, I've never been a fan of fighting games, but I've always sort of like seen that Sonic Fox wearing that furry outfit was always going to like have a negative effect on the youth. There was no way around that. And it's something that like I don't really like want to pick a beef with him personally or his fan base especially or whatever. It's just like that has a downstream effect when you now radically like enforce that there can't be like a colonies out there on the main stage who's like, not necessarily me because I'm not in that top player position right now, but like somebody like me, it's not hard to imagine them having more of an active role in shaping the mentality of people in the community while also being like that top player figure. We just don't see that. We kind of see these like, you know, morphing to whatever is acceptable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I think I see one of the main problems in that sort of thing is that there's always going to be those sort of perspectives and lifestyles existing. The problem is the natural equilibrium or the snapback of what the reaction would be to something like that. It is being actively and aggressively censored For
Yeah,
example,
right,
I'm
and it's such a
Mhm.
natural reaction, right? Like, a cognitive dissonance is formed when you look at, like, a grown man wearing, like, a blue fox outfit on main stage holding up a trophy or $100,000 check, like, it does cause, like, this reaction in everybody that sees it.
Yeah, and it's totally natural to oppose it or make fun of it or be like, "This is weird," but the
It
problem is,
is,
like,
I don't necessarily have a problem with him being, like, himself or whatever, it's just, like, I think just acknowledging the nature of, like, of the radicalness of Sonic Fox's like that the radicalness of going out and being like, hey, like every single stream is going to have pronouns now. I don't like what if I don't want to be he slash him? Like what if I just like what if that was implicit? Like,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
it's
it
natural to
forces
have a
that.
divide. Yeah, it's like natural to like just have like difference in opinion. There's going to be however the bones fall, there's going to be 50% do this, 50% that, or whatever you want to say. But I
Sure.
think one of the main issues is that the side that naturally has a disposition where they're like, okay, I see that as weird and I'm just going to make fun of it. They're being actively aggressively censored using this ritualized untouchable class,
Mm,
and the slander or that the power of social media, the evil side of it, where you can just repeat something about someone, use these buzzwords that they've crafted, that have come into being, and
right.
just
They'll
like
find
totally
the
discredit
perfect
people.
thing to like push your buttons and make you into this like caricature of yourself. I think that's 100% a real trap that I see, I feel the threat of falling into every single day.
For example, like I'm Muslim, right? But
Yeah,
that's part of my identity. So I'm playing games and I'm saying I'm Muslim and I might also represent parts of that on stream or while I'm competing, etc.
sure.
But if somebody else is going to be criticizing Islam or, saying like I'm not a fan of Islam, I'm not going to go straight into saying this guy's Islamophobic. This guy, get him, make sure he doesn't have a job, make sure he doesn't have this, make sure he doesn't have that. No, like
Do your thing,
I,
internet.
there's no compulsion in Islam, and but when it comes to even other ideology or religion, it's like, dude, you got to have the tact to understand that there's people that are not going to agree and there's going to be people that you got to let be because you're not the only guy that exists in this entire universe.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it is like a practice of empathy to see like the fact that like, dude, you know how hard it is probably to be like that, to be an active Muslim and not be more representative of that in your identity? Like, I'm sure you are trying to actively to be more diplomatic just by like not, including your natural inclination to like invoke like the Quran and stuff. I think that's sort of like no one understands that. They don't make an effort to like empathize with that. When there's a Catholic in a community and they don't like the fact that like homosexuality is accepted to the point where it is being openly displayed in public. It is being like actively coordinated, hotel room orgies as they call it, blah blah blah. If you are a Catholic and you have a problem with that and you speak out, it's quite literally like you are being like you might as well have said slurs. You might as well have done the route of, taking the lower path and engaging with it at that level. And I think that's gross. I think it's really completely not acknowledging the effort of people that have these very different backgrounds and the way that they are able to come together, the way they do tolerate some of the most, intolerable behavior in society. Like there is such an active effort on the part of the, more, I would say traditional people in the community. It's just been completely like taken for granted, and it's been extended to the point where it's like now you get put to the, you get put on trial for that. That's just where we're at.
Yes, it's a complete lopsided, mistreatment. It's unfair. It's imbalanced.
It's a
And this is
kangaroo
why
court.
kangaroo court, peanut gallery of people coming in, and they say they might be of one aisle, but they so vehemently defend their aisle without considering the other side. This is why I use words like supremacist or
Mm,
extreme or something of that sort, as because if the LGBTQ ideology or the leftist ideology, if it stood on its own and it was able to coexist with other people's perspectives, such as Catholic or Muslim, then that would be fine. We would be able
Yeah,
to be free to hold our positions and maturely compete together. But what we see is the opposite. They
100%,
hold
man.
theirs as, that's why I say supremacists, because they hold their values as wholly more valuable, better, more valid, and they give it special privileges. They actually give it special attention
You get
over
opportunities for
everybody
that. Yeah,
else.
you get jobs, you get opportunities, you get, mainly attention. Like positive attention, you get put into that feedback loop where you're getting sort of acknowledged for your most individualistic, like, quirky, like, sort of side, like that. It's like almost like giving a kid a candy store, like, free reign to sorta, take it as far as you want. I think that there's an effect that has on the community where it's like, it endangers people. It makes it sort of like a dark spiral towards like a lifestyle that maybe they were never going to be exposed to before. And I don't necessarily even mean like homosexuality when I say that. I really mean more so like getting lost in a sort of like me mentality. Whereas like I think when when someone like myself reaches out to you guys and says, "Hey, I align ideologically more with you guys. I think our jokes probably land better with each other." I am very interested to hear the perspective of a Muslim guy, of a FGC guy, of these guys that have so much experience and have these very radical sort of deep seated beliefs in the effect of like spiritually uplifting young men. Those are the guys that I want to be around. And I have no issue with that community like having like a sort of like not like a safe space, but like a place for them to have like their own sort of Quirk Chungus Fest. I'm totally fine with that. But I also think like, yeah, I want this to be an option as well. I want guys to know like, hey, this is an option as well. Like the Discord chat doesn't have to like, you don't have to worry about it getting leaked. Like, I don't know. I'm just sick of that. I'm just sick of this culture of like being in the closet if you aren't down with like the full agenda. And that is the irony of it, right? It almost feels like you are sort of like I've made this joke to people before. It's like, hey man, like I know you think you want to hang out with me and stuff, but like you got to be careful because I'm like, I'm gonna come out of the closet as a radical right wing extremist. And then you're gonna have to like disavow me. And then like when I
Yeah,
start saying this shit, they start laughing. But a part of me
it's
does
true though.
sense, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
They
It's
start
actually,
realizing for the very first time the reality. And it's like, yeah, man, people have never considered that position. It's horrifying for most. I just don't want I want that stigma to sort of be broken down. I think that's where I could play a bit of a role.
that's fantastic, man. Yes, we have to make an effort to break it down, just create bridges and allow a safe space for people of our side,
Yeah, to provide a
conservative,
voice for them, for them to have an avatar, for them to have someone they see in themselves. Like that is so important, I think.
I think so too. I guess I'll say some last remarks to summarize our convo, but would you be opposed to starting to bring some other people in, like Tenrio or Art, or did you
Yeah,
want to
no, that'd
go
be
a little bit?
great.
Okay, yeah, I really enjoyed our conversation one on one. I think it's great that you've come and courageously just come to set the record on what you think. I think that's totally reasonable, and I hope that you continue to be accepted and enjoy Smash Brothers as you see fit, and enjoy making content, etc. I'm happy to have you anytime, because we
Thank
do
you,
really
man.
see eye to eye on a lot. Of course, no
Yeah,
problem.
I think that's really interesting too because we have so little in common almost, right? Like you're a melee guy, I'm like an ultimate guy. Like there is just so many differences, and it's really more so like about like what is your mission, and I just fuck with your mission heavily. I think it's just I've always been able to see in your content that like you are trying to fulfill that avatar role in a way for a different subset of guys in the community than me, and I think that's awesome. I want to empower that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's something we should all strive towards this if we want to fix this mess. So, and there's a lot of opportunity as well. It's a void, and we've got to grassroots grow up. But I'm gonna start bringing some people in. I see
If you don't mind, I
NYC
kind of do need
30.
to use the restroom real quick.
Go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
All right,
Take
I'll be
your
back in like 5.
take your time. Go ahead.
Yo,
All right.
base.
Yo, base. What's up, Art? How's it going? Tenrio, I got you on too. Welcome, guys. Hope you enjoyed
Yo,
the
chill.
presentation. Thanks
Tanner's
for
still
being
listening
patient.
status. He's not. I don't think he's requested to speak. He's just
No,
listening.
I did. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
can hear you.
Then the
What's
X
up,
phase is
guys?
just glitching out.
Yo, thanks for
Yeah.
being patient, guys, while listening. What's up?
Hey, nothing much. We were actually just before you started the space, we were watching Technicals drop the video about hacks. Um,
Oh,
so
also
you know,
shout out to Yo Yo, who's also here. Hey, Yo Yo, thank you for stopping by.
yeah, shout outs to Yo-Yo, shout outs to everybody here as well. Shout outs to Prime in the chat as well, shout outs to DFF and all these other guys who just genuinely support our, endeavor. And just a lot has been going on. Whether it comes down to, the hack situation, NYC Melee and how they mistreated him. We watched a portion of it where there's a lot of genuine information on how his so-called friends mistreated him, coming down to it overall. First and foremost, I love Smash. I play it with my friends every week. I love Melee. I love Ultimate. I love 64 PM. I'm a PM guy. Actually, I used to play a lot of PM with and Melee with D1 back when he was in the Bronx. Every other week we ran friendlies. So it's just a big shout out to all the PM players out there as well. So I've been sort of entrenched in the Smash scene as a whole. I used to go to Nebulous out in New York. I was going back and forth to different tournaments. Just all over. So I do have some sort of presence in the scene to where I can say hey, I really care about it. So, if those who don't know me, I'm Tenrio. I've been around a lot as a political sort of figure of sorts. With I'm gonna say this right here. Nick Fuentes is my friend. I'm considered a groiper.
W Groiper.
W groiper, and
W Tedria.
Are you a Nazi?
yeah, I'm a Nazi, I guess.
Oh.
I guess how
What are you not saying?
Ferrari.
What are you
How
not
do-
saying?
huh? What
are
am
you
I
not
not
saying? Yeah.
Not much. Just also I'm a minority owner of ESTV. ESTV is a 24/7 esports network to where we're pretty much onboarding. We're actually in the process of onboarding a lot of different communities to our network. We stream on different different smart devices worldwide. As you guys know, and I've called this plenty of other moments in different Twitter spaces, different on different occasions, the Saudi takeover is very real. And I know some people might not agree with that, but the reality of the fact is that it's happening. And
Interesting.
the only reason why I knew about it personally is because my company was literally striking a deal with them. A $5 million deal with Zane Group. Zane Group is basically they have an esports they're starting to get into esports more in Iraq and different parts of the Middle East and North Africa. So pretty much they're here. You saw the deal they just recently struck with the putting what was it, 900
I feel like I
billion
even
dollars?
saw Zane's logo on that infographic. Yeah.
Yes. So Zane is pretty much, let's say they're the Verizon of the Middle East. They have a market cap of how many, what, 2 billion was it, Art? I don't remember the numbers or anything like that.
It's in multiples of billions.
Right.
In multiples
So
of billions.
it's a pretty big number. And right now they're asking for our expertise. We're building an app for them. So they're really expanding on esports and digital entertainment in general. So this is a very big lucrative opportunity for pretty much anybody that's willing to just say, hey, you know, like I want to take esports seriously. I see you mentioned about like, you know, just young guys like making like $2,000, you know, a month, and you know that's an opportunity that we want to present to everyone, you know, moving forward. Right now, what we're doing in New York is you know, we're planning to having on some real tournaments. We're actually holding a PUBG event pretty soon, ESTV, as well, as we have, you know, we're partnered with the whole entire publisher. So you know, there's going to be a lot more like physical presence pretty soon coming from out of our camp. You know, ESTV is a South Korean based esports network, so there's a lot of like South Korean based you know, like esports teams that you're going to see, including some big names that you probably already know. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but
Sure.
pretty much you know, that's who I am, that's what we have cooking. And you know, and we're trying to expand. Me personally, you know, as a guy who's been in the FGC for a little over 20 years or so, you know, I'm trying to bring all of those resources in general to the FGC as a whole, like FGC Smash, you know, fighting games in general.
Who
I
could not
consider
fuck
Smash,
with that? Like, who can
I
hate on this?
personally
I don't understand.
I personally consider Smash a fighting game. There's a lot of people who cope about it, like, "Oh, Smash is not fighting." Like,
Nope, I'm one of those.
Yeah.
I'm one of those. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm one of those.
nah,
W.
bro.
You know,
Smash.
hey,
If you hit somebody in the face, it's a fighting game. I don't care what it
Yeah,
is.
that's
We
point.
even have we even
That's
have a
point to fighting
UFC
game.
team. You know, we have a
That's
UFC
very
team,
diplomatic
bro.
of you, Tenrio, and we do appreciate that, of course. But
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean-
I've heard this argument as someone that's also been around for a decade plus. I mean, I'm very well aware of the arguments about the Smash
doesn't
being a
even
fighting game
matter
or not.
anymore,
But I
like,
just
it's
want
a
to say,
fighting game.
Oh no, we're not doing this. We're not gonna.
we're not doing this because
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
think
it's a
about what
fighting game.
Tenrio just said. That was some of the most informative, like, white pilling shit I've heard in a long time. Genuinely, like, that's the kind of organization that I'm talking about, like leadership, like vision for the community. Like, that's a winning vision. The way you even came in and said, like, you know, like that $2,000 a month opportunity, like for young guys, like being able to even just have that opportunity on the table and not gatekeep it behind like an agenda, not necessarily make it about some sort of ulterior, like, you know, it's just about like being like great. You know, there's something in that, like, I totally like resonated with. And yeah, man, I think it's great to have guys like you with that mentality.
right. You
Right.
just want to
And, you
put in the
know,
work.
like I said before, like this whole thing where you know, you have these like include like, oh, we want to be as inclusive as possible, and then we have, you know, the whole hack situation and plenty of other different bands where people are just like ostracized and looked at funny because they have a certain political viewpoint, they hold a certain political opinion or whatever the case may be. There are even some people who kind of like sort of agree with us that are on the center, like you know, like guys like Technicals and his camp and some other guys
Right.
who
It's
don't
like a more
necessarily
liberal perspective, but yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You know, they don't necessarily agree with our opinion, and some of them even doubt that we can run something that's like truly apolitical and neutral. And I'll say this, like for a time when we ran Mana Monthly, well, I didn't run it, I sponsored it for a little while. But the time that Manalord, big shout outs to him. I hope he's going to listen to this space if he's not here. At a time we actually ran a truly apolitical tournament to where if you're banned in the mainstream scene, whether you are or not, you can enter. I don't care if you're like a tranny. I don't care if you're like you know, like if you're on the left, on the right, the center. Like we're just here for the games at the end of the day. And we ran that like quite
Yeah.
efficiently for quite some time. We had Melee, then we expanded, you know, like Mech here ran Phoenix Feud, which was for Ultimate. We had a lot of like, you know, currently banned like Ultimate players like Zero, Salem, you know, all of those guys as well. And we ran something very cohesive to where it was like there was not much of a problem except like for two small reasons. Well, one big reason and one smaller reason. Like there was like, you know, a little bit of strife within you know, like a little trolling or whatever that happened within the scene or whatever.
Infighting and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of infighting and garbage. And
Drama.
like
Yeah.
and then more or less involving like Mech here, who I brought on as a player officially for ESTV. You know, a lot of these guys, they attack our livelihoods, they attack our, you know, and they don't
It's
really,
like a
they don't
smear
just,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, they don't just ban you. They'll go to like your workplace and boycott it, and like try to steal your livelihood away from you. This happens not just in like in esports, but it happens across like every sector. Like this happens to practically
Absolutely.
every.
That's a
So
very tempered way to say it too. Like I appreciate that, but like, like they don't necessarily understand that like if you wanted to make that point even more clear, you absolutely could.
right, absolutely, and at
It's a
the end of the
testament
day,
to that you are in good faith with that mentality of like, hey, let's just build something that's generative. Let's just build
right,
something that works, like a good vision that actually motivates. And that's just, I think
exactly,
that's
Right.
so key,
People,
man.
if I may, I've talked with
Go
Matt
ahead.
before about this, and because I've dealt with some of the stuff, and honestly, I'm a little bit more of a I play a little bit more of the traditional fighting games, the Tekkens, the Street Fighters, and stuff like
right,
that. But
Mhm.
but my thing is when it comes down to this, it's the mentality, right? Like it's all about like competing and having a good time. Even with some of the stuff that was with certain characters in the fighting game space. I'm gonna tell my age a little bit here, like people like Low Tier God and stuff like that. If
Mhm.
y'all know who that
yeah. I
is,
was,
that
I used to
were
fuck with, I used to play Smash with LTG on his streams a bunch, and
Yeah,
I was
he
also,
does.
yeah.
I
I
was
don't. I'm
a little bit of lore. I was also in his group, the New Age Black. I was also a part of that as well.
yeah.
So
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not a fan of like. At first, he was cool. At first, but then when I realized like how he was, like afterwards, like and started seeing how he operated, wasn't a fan. I was turned off by it.
Sure.
Um, on top of that, he sucks at a lot of fighting games anyway. But that's just my
nah,
personal opinion. Anywho,
LTG is just himself.
Yeah,
Like
he's pretty
LTG
goated
thing.
for that.
The
yeah.
thing about it is, like LTG has good fundamentals, so a lot of that carries over. Like you'd be surprised, like how actually like decent he is at like Street Fighter, and a lot of
Oh,
people,
oh, he's
you know,
decent. I tell people this all the time. I tell people this often. Like if somebody were to watch him and like if somebody was like a newbie, right?
Mhm.
right,
And like an anime, and you ever like watch those animes where the guys getting bullied and he tries to like stand up to the bully and he gets his ass
yeah,
whooped. That
Like
yeah,
Rock
that's
Lee.
literally if you're a newbie and you don't know, yeah, exactly. If you don't know exactly what you're doing or have an idea of what happens or how the game works, and you just you're just filled by emotion to want to beat LTG, 9 out of 10 you're probably not going to do it. But once you figure out the game and you figure out how shit works,
Yeah, but low
and
tier
you
guy is
become
all about
decent,
it's all about
that
his personality. Like it's all about like who he is as a
yeah,
person. He's such an individual, He's such
true,
a like a star in
true.
that way.
And the crazy part about it is even with that, like even with his personality,
Mhm.
it's been he's more consistent than a lot of these people that
It's
clamor
true.
for that try to go against him and try to clamor for, oh, we want inclusion, because I've noticed that's always the key word. Anybody that always goes for inclusive tournaments, this is that and the third, it doesn't go pan out the way they think it is, because it's normally
It's
I've
an
looked at
inversion
like
of
when people say
inclusivity.
shit.
Yeah.
Right. It's when people like I've learned how when people double speak, that's the word I'm looking
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
Double
That's actually
speak.
something I wanted to
So
touch on today too. That's funny you bring that up. Go ahead though.
yeah, I've noticed a lot of double speak within the so-called quote unquote community. And that's my biggest issue. That's the first thing to do to piss me off is like double standards. And I don't like that shit at all. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like I don't like it and I'm not a fan of it. Um so when people start saying, "Oh, we want inclusivity, we want this, that, and the third in the games," they do it because it sounds good on the surface. It sounds great. You know what I'm saying? You want people to be, you want people from all walks of life to enjoy games and this, that, and the third. You want everybody to feel as safe as possible. But when you go take it past the surface level, you realize that these people are just using that as a cover up. You know what I'm saying? That's where a lot of us have, in some way, have probably gotten hit with
Yeah, it's like
because
muddying
we
the
said something
waters,
that doesn't hit.
I think that is like a very
Yeah,
intentional strategy as well.
yeah, it's gotten to the point where it's clear. It's like clear and intentional. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
dude.
And it's like
Yeah.
these people are trying to do it on purpose. And if anything, it's really annoying.
It
It's
is.
to
I mean,
me
it's
because
like
it's like, yo, I enjoy playing
yeah,
fighting
it
games.
gatekeeps your
You
ability
know
to
what I'm
feel
saying?
motivation towards that. Like,
Yeah,
that's
agreed.
just I mean, man, as someone that is very aware of like that sort of how do you say like the collective unconscious and like maybe where like the zeitgeist is at any given time, like I've always had a sort of thing for being in touch with that. And seeing the way that it's progressed, it's like right now is sort of like it's really the most actionable time that there's ever been since maybe, brawl times, like that MLG days, like the transition from that and how VG Boot Camp took over in the way that they were able to sort of like make the Smash community independent from the FGC in a way, like when that was sort of the Evo pipeline into the Smash community.
I definitely remember those days where, FGC
100%.
and Smash had a big riff. And, a lot of people, this is why I say, like, I'm one of the rare guys, maybe Art's here and other people. Like, I'm one of the rare guys where we're going to circle back to the whole thing we just talked about. Where,
Yo, by the way,
yeah.
breaking news, Mech's channel is now banned on Twitch as of
What?
right now.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it
gonna
says
ask if
it's
he was banned on
temporarily
Twitch.
unavailable due to violation of community guidelines. I don't know exactly what it was, but my channel's just gone. Usually would give me a chance to appeal, but
Was it because I said Nick's name?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, we're not gonna know.
Oh.
We're not gonna know until Twitch tells us.
Yeah, if they ever tell me.
See, that's stupid.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
Twitch is just so
insane.
annoying, man. Like, I don't know. It's good.
Was
It's
it
like,
wait, when did it when we started the the open speaking? Was it then?
yeah, it seemed to be correlated with the open speaking because it was just in the past, like, literally 5-10 minutes.
Dude,
So,
wow.
yeah, I mean, it's all right. Like, we'll see what happens. Like,
I'm having like
I
tech
think
issues, so I'll be back in like 1 minute, just so you know.
I literally think like the words Nick Fuentes tripped something. That's insane.
yeah, we'll see. I'll campaign to try and get it back because it's always good to have more reach. But I've got like YouTube and Rumble and like X and stuff like that. So whatever.
Right.
Twitch is gay.
All right, let's see if I'm banned because I'm like a Twitch partner.
Dude,
I doubt it.
you're streaming too?
No, I'm not streaming right now.
Okay. No.
Just let James
Yeah, I'm not
know
banned.
situation. Just now.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Mech was streaming the space, so
Oh, were you streaming the space, man?
Yeah, I was actually streaming.
Oh,
multi-streaming
shit.
this space
It's-
out. Yeah.
Dude, but
Dude,
like,
what the
this
fuck?
is crazy.
The Grim Reaper strikes.
You can't even say anything. You
Yeah.
can't say anything on Twitch except for the game. Is that what we're down to at this point?
It
I
might
think
have
it's
been-
because I
Saying
said
Nick Fuentes,
okay, so I said Nick Fuentes and Tranny. Those two, though, the two words that I
Oh,
think in the back of
Yeah,
my
I mean,
mind.
but then
and it's the perfect combo where it's like that's the obfuscation.
I mean,
Bruh.
yeah. I mean, it's not like I said it. I guess the channel said it by proxy, so they might have like AI captions, just figuring out what people say.
Yeah,
They
it
might-
probably is some automatic flagging bullshit.
Yeah, whatever. I'll try and figure it out. But
That's fucking gay and retarded.
Yeah, I mean, I just wonder how people feel. Like, how would you feel if you were Mech in that moment? Like, we just spent like the last hour like providing this super positive vision that is actually like radically like, not tribal, like something that's actually sort of like providing hope for a lot of the guys that are sort of willing to go down in the war right here. And then
we get raped by tranny ass AI. Fuck.
Yeah,
Now
that's
I'm
pretty
gonna
much
speak
what happened.
freely. Fuck that.
And now you gotta blow it up on X, Mech.
It's a strategic error on my part. If I knew
Yeah.
it was going to be full free speech, I probably shouldn't have done.
I didn't even.
activated
I
Twitch.
said two, I said two
It's nobody's
words.
fault.
I didn't
That's
even
fine.
That's a
curse.
good one.
I didn't
That's a good
curse.
one.
I didn't like get vulgar or anything. I said Nick Fuentes and trannies, and that wow.
That should
Wow. Wow,
Twitch is
Tezio.
just super woke and gay, so whatever. I'll make a post right now, but yeah, I mean, I guess that does stem into the
Well,
conversation.
To me, it's like, here's one moment where I almost like push back on you guys just a tad, where it's like, yeah, you're right. This is actually like an actionable, like sort of injustice on you. And it's like right here, yeah, you don't want to be weak and you don't want to like capitulate at all, but you also want to like, shape this in a way that is like aligned with your message, right? I just don't know how to do it because like, yeah, like I couldn't, if that was my Twitch that just got banned right there after like 11 years, like I might be willing to just fucking throw it all to the wall too. So I don't know if like we really understand like the
we don't
repercussions.
know why we it's not verified. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not verified.
why
Let's wait to find
it's
out more
banned.
info.
Sure,
But I
sure.
get kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, I just almost had to say that just so we don't go to war right here, right?
This does scare me though. It's like, damn, like
No, I'm going to war. Fuck that.
I was waiting
I'm
for someone
kidding.
to say
I'm
that.
kidding. I'm
No, you're
joking.
good.
I'm joking. I'm
And
joking, boys.
honestly, when we say war, we just mean like, like use this as a way to like spotlight the problem. It's not like a actionable fucking call for violence. Obviously, it's like literally like, hey, here's another example of what we mean, right? Like it's like there's a like a swift arm of enforcement that goes against like a specific group of ideas, and it's currently like targeting somebody like Mech.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to provide a space for people to talk. I think it's like, Twitch is super strict, so I should have known. It's like a strategic error on my part.
I think you're smart for feeling that way too, to be honest. To be real, like we all got to learn how to do that dissident thing like as good as we possibly can, right? Like that's something that's just, there's no easy path towards like being a genuine like disruptor to the current regime.
I'm an expert at being a dissident. All right, step one.
Or it could have been a mass report job.
Don't apologize for shit. Nothing. Not absolutely
I'm
nothing.
taking notes right now.
Step two, always be angry. Always be in war mode, no matter what.
Channel it.
Step three, and this is actually arguably the biggest step. Never let them catch you lacking, in a sense of, always aura farm, always fucking never let these fucking people, and it circles back to not apologizing for anything. It's like, dude, I said 2 words. Nick Fuentes, 3 words technically. Nick Fuentes and trannies. And it's like, yeah, you got like gay AI, like, like scoping out every word I'm saying. And it could be like something completely unrelated to anything. Someone could like walk past someone saying quote unquote slur or whatever, and you just get fucking cooked like that. Like we could talk about like Nazis. We could say the word Nazi and then fucking
it's completely arbitrary, like right? That's like one of the big issues.
I mean, I had a stream yesterday. I was talking about Marxism. I was talking about Nazism, and the way that we said tranny, we said it in a positive way. Where like, hey,
that's actually
that's a crazy part. I literally said I was being all inclusive. I was like,
that's what I'm saying. Almost like we don't want to burn that like whole like because we did do a good like job right there, like doing some outreach. We
could.
So yeah, we could.
I was gonna say it could be 2 people that are just hate watching and just looking to mass report too. That's always a thing too. Like, which is funny because if you catch it, it's really against TOS doing stuff like that. That which is always funny to me that they claim they put these rules in place and then they ended up breaking them.
Well, here's my thing, right? And I think that's a great point. But like, this is the dilemma that I face currently, and I do kind of seek guidance from people like Tenryo on this. Like, how does a guy like me like position myself to where like, I'm not caught lacking or, I'm not missing an opportunity out of like fear, right? Like I'm not like, there's a lot of times where I notice like I'm sort of like pushing back almost just like to reach equilibrium. It's hard, right? I think maybe like just consulting others, like,
I will say this, right? The fact that you're even here, speaking out the way you are is an actual like it's baby steps, is an actual like good position to have in general. It's like, I'm gonna tell you this right now. Like the fact that you're even in here with this guy who's associated with the biggest transphobic Nazi, all the buzzwords. I mean, you throw them out there on the planet, we'll put you bigots. We're bigots. It'll put you in a certain position as it is. The fact that you're even listening to anything that we're saying and speaking in the same space as this person will probably get you screenshotted,
for sure,
have your reputation attacked in some regards, like,
it'll rub people the wrong way. That's at minimum.
It gets even worse than that. It gets even worse than that. They'll stalk you. They'll try to dox you. They'll try to find out which tournament, which local you go to, which region you're in. They'll try to ban you. Like it gets really bad to that point. And that's the problem we have right now in this community in general. We're constantly ostracized. We're constantly put on the defensive. We're constantly hunted down like we're fucking animals. And I'm tired of it. I'm honestly tired of it, which is why, me as an investor, I I seize the means of production. Like, hey, why not just fucking
Bro.
own shit? You know,
You're cooking it.
yeah. Why not?
No, I mean, as you should, because that's the biggest thing right now. Like me personally, I'm sarcastic as fuck, and I don't give a fuck. So there's my thing is like, well, to a degree, like I said, but I do try to be respectful to everybody. Like I do try to give people a conversation.
I get what you mean. You have like an inclination towards it.
Get a chance to, yeah. So when people do like, so it's really based off of how you come across towards me. So like, if some random person says some stupid shit online, I'm just gonna be like sarcastic to him. I'm like, bro, okay, you said the stupidest thing you could have ever said in your life. How do you feel? Then I look at your account. Oh, okay, this is another way people be on bullshit. Okay, look at their accounts. Okay, and I shit you not, this just happened like 5 minutes ago with something totally different. Same thing, right? Completely different. But people will sit up here talk shit. They'll sit up here and say some off the wall ass shit. You look at their profile. It's either made within like
they snitch on themselves,
right? Made within the year, or it's they have a low following or low.
Oh, you're saying like burners? Presence. Okay.
Yeah, burners or either
just
burners
anons.
or not basically anons, NPCs, whatever you want to call them.
I'm so sick of these fucking burners. I'm so sick of these fucking burners.
Sit down.
After hacks died, all the
account,
TOs they kind of shrunk into either Reddit moderation or burners, and they're not actually active. I want to get to Tope. He's got his hand raised.
I do
I
do gotta get up out of here real quick. But I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, it was nice talking to you, man.
Appreciate you stopping by, Lawrence.
Thank you for being here. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I want to let Tope speak, and then ICO we brought on. So thanks for coming up. We'll have you speak after Tope. Welcome.
Sweet.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yep. Sound good.
Well, yeah. Colonies. You know what? I've known of you. We actually played in a few sets online.
Really?
I recognize you. You're the young Link.
Yeah.
Well, you might have heard of me just because people have been because I don't know your full story, but I can relate in that I've always been very right wing, and like in my state, Georgia, I'm like the best Ike, in that stuff, and
it's a very big scene too.
Georgia in particular is just it's a cesspool with so many of these things, and people who I know, people who I'll just say this like. I think this like stupid stereotype that comes if you're an Ike player, you are like a right winger or something. It's
sure. I do sort of see that actually. Yeah.
Whether it was Rango, because it was first Rango, and who I know, who I'm friendly with, and then it's me. But
there is sort of a stigma with Ike players. That is kind of weird. It's like you guys fight for your friends. They don't like that.
It is that way, but I totally see what you mean. Like when I'll give you one tip with the getting, not being caught lacking. Like one big thing, whenever you're on spaces like this or on your debate, if you ever do debate with someone, never let them dictate the terms. And I made that mistake a little bit because it's like I went on someone's stream just to have a conversation. It was against two people, whatever. I can handle that.
Yeah.
But then like 5 to 6 people came on. And they're all like, you can't follow, and it doesn't really matter to a degree. You can argue the best you can, but
right, you don't want to run, you don't want to like, yeah.
I was basically stuck there for 6 hours.
You're, what do they call that? Stun locked? Yeah,
basically. But like,
no, I hear you on that for sure. That's a good piece of advice because, like, dude, what is going on inside? Can you guys hear that? Hopefully not. Anyways,
a little bit.
Okay.
But,
no, man. Like, I appreciate you, like, because it is actually nice to hear from someone that is in the ultimate community actively. I mean, even just the fact that you said that, I don't know if I've ever heard someone say they were far right in the Smash community. Like, I don't know if I've ever heard just like that level of authenticity. Like, like that's the sort of shit that like we need to try to, create that environment where people can be themselves. Like, I think I fuck with that, man.
Completely. And again, like people, no disrespect to Tech. I love his content and everything. I've been following him for years, but like he doesn't get it. Like he keeps on saying that we claim to be apolitical, but we're not because we have our own personal politics and we're not afraid to share it. But it's like, but we still allow anyone of any political affiliation to come. If they don't want to come, that's their choice, but we're not going to ban them. Like someone,
it's a weird issue for him to kind of like have that sort of like both sides middle
Yes.
ground thing on. I do agree with that.
Again, yeah, because it's like one side wants to ban you, dox
Like,
you,
yeah.
constant death threats. We just
I
post
don't want to
edgy
do any
memes
of
at
that.
times.
To be fair, I don't want to do any of that.
I hear you on that.
As the liberal cuck here, I don't want to do
W.
any of that.
And we appreciate that. I know you guys, I know like that's something that I almost am trying to push back on a bit, is like the sort of, the idealized version of the other side in our heads that we sort of like prop up. But I do hear that it sounds like Taupe was in a debate with 6 of them.
Yeah, it was Mike Hollow's stream, actually. Mike is like tech in that way. It's like, I just feel like with them, I don't want to talk too long, but this is the last thing I'll say, that they don't get that. They want to play both sides, and they say, oh, I don't care, just let people do what they want, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, they're the ones in power. They're doing what they're going to do. If you do not make a stance and stand up to these people and just say, I don't care, they get to do what they want. Like, you have to make a decision. You have to say what you have to say. You have to say it. If you don't, people will call you out. Like, so many times I've seen people who, it's clear that they have an issue with the gays or whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they won't say it. But then when they meet someone like Mike, right? And he'll cut through the bullshit a bit, and then he'll like basically get them trapped where they basically have to admit their beliefs, but they won't. And then
Yeah. Dude, I mean, that's like almost like, dude, that's just libertarians, right? And that's how they've been farming the far right for years and years and years.
Yep.
And they are the alternative. They are the alternative opinion that is accepted. Like, they are the sort of like idealized version of the right wing in people's heads. Like, that's why it was so crazy to me that Tech would always get like this. They would actually treat him like he was sort of like, like doing what like people would do if they were radical. Like, when in reality, he was actually always sort of like, he's a master of playing both sides against the middle. And what he finds from that fallout is like a sort of like brilliant journalistic piece. And that is the art of journalism in a way. That's sort of where I almost feel like this is something I want to open up the discussion on, is like different roles that people can play, different levels of association with, affiliation with like ideas or groups, right? It's almost like that doesn't have to be a prerequisite for playing a role in shaping the community to be a more positive, like generative place. Like, when I say generative, I mean like somebody like Tenrio coming in and providing opportunities, somebody like Arturo coming in, bringing in a different audience of people, a different group of people that have that same background, that same like sort of experience dealing with this extremely multicultural environment that is, esports. I think that's a role that people can play. But somebody like Tech, what he does is he really makes people smarter. I think that's his utility. He spells it out for you. He can kind of sort of get you to engage in the same way that like an evidence.zip 2.0 video got me to engage. I think that was like one of the biggest red pills of my entire life, was like sitting down for 2.5 hours to like watch a video that was extremely relevant to the community that I'm a part of. That was extremely like, it was almost like autistic in the way that it was so precise, like the level of precision, the way that he was able to like, rile you up with the Hitler quote in the beginning and then bring you super deep into this web of like, that was just so genius. And I respect that genius a lot. And I have a lot of admiration for people like that. And that's where I see technicals, but I don't necessarily see him as like an ideological ally. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not. And I mean, this is the last thing I want to say, that more to Icy Yo-Yo, they can respond, right? Because when I was getting to the Twitter space, I saw your post under that was saying we shouldn't allow evil people in. What do you mean by that? Like, that's a very important. That's the crux of the issue. Like, I think someone who's evil is someone who's making death threats, people who are doxing people who do illegal stuff. I don't think someone who says a mean word or makes an edgy joke.
You ever been evil though, Taupe? You ever been evil?
Well, no, I don't do illegal shit. I don't. People have sent me death threats. I know where the line is. I don't.
No, I mean, that's fair. I mean, people don't like it, but like that is like a pretty like common heuristic, right?
So,
Yeah.
so when you say, first off, I didn't say evil, but let's go along with that. So the people
What
who
did you
send
say? Hold on,
the,
let me
Wait. Don't mean to cut you off. Don't mean to cut anyone off here. ICOYO, are you streaming, by the way?
I'm not.
Okay.
No, I heard
Because
Sorry,
we
you
what
just
said
happened
bad
earlier.
people.
I
All
heard
right,
bad people.
hit us,
Actually,
Yo-Yo, hit
I
us.
actually
All right,
am.
I see Yo-Yo speak, but yeah, we want to careful your Twitch channel.
By
That's
the way,
good.
do I
Welcome.
sound okay? I'm not at
Yeah,
my
you sound
normal.
okay.
Okay,
You're a little
good.
quiet, but
Okay, well, I'll try to be louder. So here's the deal. Like, I said bad people. I didn't mean evil people. But like, and you say like the people who dox and the people who death threat, like they're the evil people. Like, and obviously that's like you're coming at that like that's a left wing thing, like that is, and obviously it is. Like, there is a faction of us who are like that, but there's a faction of the right wing that's like that too. So I think
Facts.
when we're trying to like say that is a reason to disregard the other side, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. I don't
I'm not
think
saying
that.
this.
It's
Oh,
like
I'm
a
not-
rhetorical thing, like Taupe. Like I do think that there is a susceptibility to that though, because like somebody like ICOYO is definitely going to have to like you just can't hear that and then let it like slide almost. Like there has to be a further discussion on that. I like that point.
I'll save this, right? I'll say this. With the doxing and the death threats and specific factions that do those sorts of things, like I think we do need to like genuinely come together as a community and point out which faction of whatever like political side we are on at that moment. Because I could tell you as probably the most far right person in this space right now. I can tell you who exactly is doxing me and who exactly is like revealing my public information on x.com and doing all of that stuff. And I can if there's 3 letters and I'm not going to point it out, but there are specific people that are like in certain right-wing camps who conduct those sorts of things. If you talk about the wrong subjects, if you talk about the wrong sort of like incidents and things like that, they do
Dude,
this
that's a
sort of
huge point. Yeah.
like sort of like law, they use lawfare against you.
Yeah.
They use all sorts of like these like underhanded slimy tactics, and it happens on the left as well. I know there are a lot of like classical
Mhm.
liberals and people who just believe in democracy and truth and freedom and justice and all
Like
of
a
that. I know
Biden
that.
Democrat. Like I do.
Right,
Yeah.
sort of kind of like that. But there are a lot of people who are like, I've been under the eye of Antifa. I've been under the eye of like, different like radical left wing groups that have like, pretty much like started this sort of like, underhanded tactics to like, get us like not only banned, but just completely isolated from
Mm.
like cut off from all society in general. So,
No, that's
I
so
think
true, man. It's like an identity politics thing that is super like fundamental to the left wing position.
right.
Well, I do want to say one thing, right? Because yes, of course, I want to make one thing clear. I'm not saying that like death threats and stuff is like a uniquely left wing thing, right? There are people on the right wing who do it. Like, but the thing is though, when I'm talking about more so in this community. In that case, it's basically solely people left who do
That's
that.
actually a good point too.
Yeah, that's my point. And also with the right wing, if anyone even does, we specifically call them out. We say that's not acceptable. We, blah, blah, blah. But when left wingers do it all the time, they do it constantly.
Look, I just think that the idea, right, is we got to lower this. We got to like calm down the stakes. Like we got to like not necessarily like put a chilling effect on people's like, rhetoric, but more so be willing to like just guide people in a direction that doesn't necessarily have to be like lawfare and like smear campaigns and like it can actually be it's not going to be like a free and open debate that wins. I do understand that 100%. And there is a ton of obfuscation and muddying the waters, self-interest, different interests that aren't necessarily self-based, like there's a lot of that going on for sure. And it's not clear how we necessarily deal with that, but it is actually pretty bad to like not reach out to the populist left because that is the biggest part of the community,
That's
right?
because like it's kind of hard to do that when the top down of the FGC openly calls you a Nazi, and then everybody else follows suit. Like a lot of this happened because like they openly call us Nazis. They openly call for our death. and like we've all
Right.
openly been doxxed, and it's fucking crazy. It's
I know
fucking
it
Yeah,
is, bro. I know it is. It's
clear
almost
to
hard to tell somebody like, yeah, R2, just deal with it. Now what? Now what? But it almost is
Yeah.
like, yeah, we all have to sit
No,
there and
like-
inevitably be like, all right, we got to
Yeah.
seize the means. We got to.
Yeah. Yeah, now like I mean, literally, people tell me I'm gonna shoot you, and then I'm like, okay, come shoot me then. And then people are like, oh my god, Arturo said that. Arturo said like for people to go shoot him, ban him.
Oh, the violent threats
that's
is
where we're at.
definitely
That's where we're
like
at now.
a 80. It's like a 80-20 sort of like, I would say 90-10 like left wing thing. Like you don't see
That's
like
fair.
really, you don't see right wingers like like actively like threatening people on and
You
like on social
unironically think
media.
that you unironically.
I don't see it on social media.
It's like-
No,
It's
unfortunately.
gotten to this point almost where it's like, yeah, the average right wing position is sort of to be ultra tolerant. Like it is actually to be like willing to find the middle with every single thing that you are constantly
that
engaging with.
I here again. I know I'm
Sure.
I'm the
Yeah, push back on that because I do
I'm
want
the
to
liberal
develop
here,
this.
But like, guys, nah, that is not how I see that at all. I see a lot of the actual violence perpetuated coming from the right wing. That is, I mean, and I think statistically you could look that up. That is
When you say violence, like do you mean like violent crime statistics or like actual
not
incidents
just
of
violent
like
crime, like acts of hate, acts of like
Oh,
hatred.
brother.
yeah, I don't know about that one
What does
because
that
look,
even
man,
really-
like yeah, they're all done by like men.
No, I'm
Like,
sorry. What the fuck? Does
How
it
far
even
could
mean
you get
acts of
into
hate?
that? Like,
Yeah,
we're-
acts of
yeah,
hate.
that's
What does that mean? Acts of hate.
like mass shootings perpetuated on race and like gender issues. Are you fucking kidding me? Like
You
that
do
is not
re-
a left
Okay.
wing thing.
Oh, okay. I see.
yeah,
what you-
yeah.
You do
That's
realize that actually the group of people who commit the most mass shootings are young black men, actually. It's not young white men. It actually is.
Motivated
Well-
on hate. Motivated on hate.
Well, it's not motivated on love to
No,
go
you
and
s-
kill your enemy,
yeah, I
right?
love-
No shit. But it's not like a political statement when black men do it. It is a political statement when young white
Why
men
does it
go
matter?
to a
Oh, wait. Just hold on,
and
Tope. Hold
shoot
on,
up
Tope.
a grocery store. I'm from Buffalo, New York. That's something
Yeah.
that happened here.
No, I mean, look, there is like this MK Ultra faction of the right wing that gets like somehow like fucking mind fucked into doing some shit like that to accelerate the like, potential of like billionaires feeling scared enough to usher in pre-policing. I mean, we can go there, yo, but like my thing
Oh,
is
I'd
with
love
you,
to.
bro, it's like where are you coming from? Like when you like pull out like the biggest, like most emotionally charged, like politically, you say they're politically motivated, like
Yeah.
doesn't that also mean that it's politically framed?
Yeah,
Wouldn't you also be like more open to like, what if that person had like a pathologized psychology, right? Like, is it necessarily the political angle that is making them do that?
Well,
What did, like-
absolutely. So like that, obviously not everybody who's listening to like Tucker Carlson and listening about the
Sure.
great replacement theory is going to go out there and shoot up a black grocery store. But that is the
Man.
logical like path
What?
you go down if you listen.
Well, hold
to
on. This is like
some
this is
shit
like a
like
real perspective. No, I understand what you're saying because like it is like I mean, it radicalizes people. I agree. The nature of the problem itself is also like, to that level of like radicalization, right? Like I feel radicalized by just the society around me and the, contemporary political issues of our time. Like I think that was enough just there to do it, let alone like online content and stuff. There is a perspective for that, but at the same time, like it's a super bad faith argument to pull out like, a church, a mosque shooting, a gay club shooting or whatever, and say that that's indicates that the violent threats against people online in this community are more likely to come from the right wing, which is completely not based in reality.
Yeah, well,
That's your
one-
perspective, but that's also because you are coming from a right-wing perspective.
Do you
are
have
getting
examples of
your
like
hate
people like
from the
like
left.
motivated against left-wing people, like to the point of giving them violent threats and shit?
I'm sure I could come up with examples. I'm sure.
I doubt you can, and I actually do think that that's a good place for you to like maybe look into that if you want to like, flesh out that argument a little.
Well,
Wait,
I think it's a non-issue because I think it is it is a natural
Okay.
point of like the conclusions of both sides. Like radicalization is like a endpoint for both sides. That's absolutely how it is. And I'm definitely a more radical leftist.
Let's hope they
But
jump in here.
radicalization doesn't mean violence. Radicalization means seeing things from like a perspective of like our desperate measures are going to have to be taken for me to survive.
I think violence is usually at the end of all that. So,
I mean, I said myself, I feel radicalized. Feel no indication of like a hint towards violence from anything I've said or done.
good for
Or
you then.
All right, I'll
Thanks.
say this as a guy that lives in New York. My black fatigue is off the fucking charts. I'm not looking over my shoulder for a white man, okay? Like,
Fucking
I'm not
exactly.
looking over my shoulder for like some white man going to mug me. I don't cross the street when I see a group of white people in the heart of New York City,
You
okay?
cross the street
I
when you
live
see a
in the
group of
city,
black people?
all right?
Like, what are you trying to say?
I see plenty of niggas every day doing crazy shit, you know?
The point is, it's not
every day,
political.
bro.
That is a wild statement, bro. That's
How
a
is it
wild
wild?
statement. That's a
How?
wild
How is it
statement.
wild?
That's facts. That's
You
facts,
think it's
bro.
because
You live in
they're
New York,
black
that's
that you
facts.
got to be scared of them as a black man?
What?
Fuck
I'm
yeah.
terrified. I'm not even terrified. I'm not terrified. I'm
You really
steel
are, Nick
hardened.
Wet
I'm a
Quintessence
real
bro. What the
nigga. I
fuck?
walk
You're crazy.
I walk the streets. I walk the streets every day. I'm tough. I'm the toughest nigga
But you're
alive. My
scared of
aura is
black people. That's
unmatched.
crazy.
I'm
brother.
not scared of black
Well,
people.
yo, you say that you
I'm
think
just
that white.
careful of
All
black
right, you
people.
think that these right wing guys are the violent ones, right? But like, where do you? I'm like, all right, what do you do to support that? How do you support that? Do you got examples? Do you got? Because I was completely confused, and you bring out like mass shootings.
Well, because
He's like,
that's right wing ideology. Right
Henry
there.
is talking about every single day realities for like a majority of people that live in any city.
Yeah, you all fucking are crazy people who vote fucking fascist in. Like, what are you talking about? That is
Hold
violent
on just a
ideology.
second.
Wait,
Hold
hold
on.
on. Why would you guys get mad when he says this? Don't you realize
No,
that that's like an
because-
utter win?
No, because like this dude is just full of shit, and I'm gonna explain why, right?
Please,
Because I love it. Leftists like him love making this argument that because something's not political because someone didn't think it out, that makes it less worse than one. Because blacks might do random acts of violence to you. It's not as bad as someone planning out a shooting. Which is more likely to happen to you? You getting hit in a gang shooting, by a stray bullet, or mass shooting? What do you think is more common? Genuine question.
I mean,
Probably
honestly
the
though,
gang shooting,
so like this is almost what I mean. Like it's derailed into the like this is midwit shit, right?
How is it midwit?
No, no,
Because it's like you're literally playing on like the most extreme possible emotional example that is resonating inside of your brain without having
gamers are political midwits. All of them. Every single fucking one. This
Especially
is
you.
why this shit doesn't
Yo,
fucking
tell 'em,
belong
tell 'em.
here.
Tell 'em.
So no. So Tenryo, could we go down that bit of logic?
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Fuck that.
Let's say it is gang violence. Let's say it is. Let's say that is the more
Ouch,
likely
you
way
put it
to
to
get.
Yeah, but like
shit.
we were talking about like in this community. Like it's not gang violence in this community.
Well,
I get that Tenryo brought that up. He was being funny.
but that
Your argument was sort of like
It's
it sort
not
of like
ideology.
provoked like a crazy like wow, this guy is not ever gonna try to like meet us anywhere in the middle, is he?
I would love to have this argument, but I'll hold off from it too. But let's go back to talking about in the community. Again, we can list like people on Blue Sky, people on X, so many left wingers. There we have screenshots of many, like James MK is here. How many screenshots does he have of left wingers wishing violence? For me personally, I'm in Georgia. Some fucking tranny literally threatened to throw a brick
all
at me.
day. You can nitpick all day.
Yo, how is that a nitpick? It's his own personal experience.
No, it is a nitpick, but James MK is an example of someone who has a treasure trove of hundreds on hundreds.
That's
of
a good point.
examples of this. It's
Yo, I have to mute everybody for a second because Kevin, can you keep your mic muted, please? We're getting a lot of background noise, and yeah, when it's your turn to speak, just then you can unmute your mic. Thanks. Anyway, continue, guys. Oh yeah, you're all unmuted. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. It's not a nitpick. It's a pattern. Okay, it's not just like one or two or maybe even 10. It's hundreds. This stuff happens all the time, but you just don't see it because you don't have to deal with it.
If I could show you that there is an equivalent amount of right wingers doing the exact same thing, then what's your conclusion there? What's
then
your
I would agree
conclusion
with
there?
you. But then,
Okay.
but what you're gonna show me is, oh, because someone's like posted a edgy joke, and they're gonna compare it to someone saying, "I'm gonna throw a brick at you." Not the
That's
same
why I
thing.
asked you for an example in the first place, Yo-Yo.
Well,
Yeah.
of course. And if we actually get to a point where the only way I can convince you is showing you an example, 100%, I will absolutely do that. But I don't think the throwing around examples way is like the way to really have this conversation.
All right, we got to do it in La La Land.
Because it doesn't exist in the FGC. Like, there's barely any right wingers in the FGC, so it's really hard to show examples.
Like,
Well,
I feel
yeah,
like,
because
Yo-Yo,
they're
you are
right-wingers,
fighting
like,
like
they
a
won't say anything.
caricature in your mind of like, you know, what these guys are like.
Do you know why
Like-
there's not many of you guys in the FGC?
Can y'all hear me now?
I know
Yeah,
why.
why?
I know exactly why. Yeah,
It's
I mean,
because you guys are anti like inclusion in general, so we don't like having you around. That's
Did you
straight up
just
how it
not
is.
hear the
And I
entire
can't believe
conversation
how
I just
Yo-Yo
had
can
about inclusivity?
And we
Like,
just
I
include,
told, I
like,
went on a
think
whole
you're wrong.
tirade.
I think you're wrong.
I went on a
think
whole
your
tirade
version
about like
of-
genuine inclusivity, and somehow it got mixed channel banned. Like, I don't understand that part.
Your
Like,
version of inclusivity is just
It was such a
allowing
good
Just
everybody
speech.
because you're on
who is
that doesn't
hateful
mean you won't get
in the
suspended for
space.
certain
That
shit.
is what it is.
Yo-Yo, do you also dislike per capita?
What?
This
Explain.
nigga can't
It's
fathom
basically
the-
asking
Yeah,
you
but like, you know,
for
almost like this
capital
is like
respect.
right wing memes. I don't know.
Alright,
It's
so
kind of
can
cringe.
you guys
to me
hear me?
too.
Oh, like okay.
Okay.
I get it.
So I think where
Yeah.
it gets kind of
I'm
misconstrued,
just ball
right?
busted now.
Right,
You're
where it
good.
gets misconstrued is that there are two inclusivity vectors or ways of actually recording that or measuring it, right? So one of the first one is like the social aspect, right? Which I know ICYO cares about, right? We've said before. So the social aspect of inclusion, that I think involves comfort, you know, maybe having a more one-to-one agreement on your views, etc. Like if you go to a local tournament, you're going to see a lot of people that agree with you, and that's great. You're going to feel more comfortable, you know. Now the inclusion that we claim to hold, and the one that we wholly value over even social inclusion, I don't even care that much about social inclusion, is competitive inclusion. Okay, when you start banning people for their views or no words or whatever you want to call it, that's where we have a problem, because what Tenryo was saying earlier is that he actually is inclusive towards people with ulterior beliefs and other beliefs. You know, we'll allow trans people. You know, this is what Manalord thinks. This is what NYC Furby thinks. This is what I think. Tenryo thinks. You can play if you can play. If you plug in, if you're not cheating, okay, if you're not causing actual violence, physical at the tournament, whatever you're doing, you can play. And that's the inclusion that me as a competitor, somebody that cares about esports, really cares about. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to be your definition of inclusion, which I'd love to know more about, because I really want to know what you mean. Because for me, when every time I hear somebody say that, as of recently, it means don't think a certain way so that a certain group can feel more included. You know, it feels
Maybe
like
maybe a better way to
exclusive.
say that is don't express your thoughts in a way that makes other people uncomfortable to come to that space. Because
What the
that's
fuck? does that
Thank you
even
so
mean?
much.
That's
ICO,
you're
you know.
effectively
Thank you.
tone policing though when you
Yeah.
do that.
okay.
And look, dog, I'll keep it a buck with you. We can. I actually appreciate you being here because you know you have a different perspective that we don't all agree with, and it's good that we're actually talking. We can disagree on pretty much anything except for pedophilia.
Oh yeah.
And however,
Except for racism as well.
however you treat me when you see me in person is what I'm going to match.
Yeah.
So if you're respectful to me, regardless of political disagreements, ideological disagreements, religious disagreements, whatever, that's how I'm going to treat you. And I believe that's how most people are. The problem is what's happening in the gaming space is that only one frame of mind is being allowed to be put on blast and put through the loudspeakers. And any dissident opinion that doesn't agree or affirm that, you get labeled as some type of indignant Nazi is the one they like to call anyone who is center right and beyond is all extreme far right, and that's just not true. And it's not fair to just paint with such a broad brush, the same way we don't necessarily like being painted with a broad brush, so like I understand
Absolutely.
where you're coming from, but what we would like to see is we can just get together and enjoy playing fighting games together. But a lot of people here are being told that they're not wanted and they're not welcome because of wrongthink. And for me, it's like, I don't care, Mech's a Muslim, I'm a Christian. Are we going to agree on religious stuff? Probably not. But that's not the most important thing for what we're trying to do in the space. And I don't mean like the space we're talking in, and
So
we're more...
yeah,
I see we're more easy to put that stuff to the side.
of course.
And
Because you're
you don't
also
When it
see
gets
that
to the
on here.
Melanie Mac levels of disrespect, that's where the problems start to come in, though. That's what I see Yo-Yo is saying. When it gets to the levels of Friday Night Tights or Critical Drinker, that's when shit gets out of line.
None of them niggas is that. What are you talking about? None of them niggas is
way,
that.
bro.
Yeah.
So I kind of I want to respond to that. So I don't like the idea of just banning people because of wrong think. I think we should have the ability to disagree with people and like still like play with them. Absolutely, 100%. But I know that's not what you think a majority of us are like. And there's definitely examples. There's definitely examples of like the liberal Smash community like banning people because of wrong thing. 100%.
Wrong thing. Yeah.
But I still totally believe that people who are actively transphobic, actively bigoted, should not be allowed to come to the events because they make the environment not like fun for the other people. They make
bottom line.
If they're not,
Look, that was a good try right there. I'm dead ass too. I'm dead ass. That was actually pretty respectable.
You're so
Go ahead.
full of shit. Oh my god.
My guy, like for me, as long as they're not harassing the person, I don't care. And
I mean, look, if there was actual bullying going on, that's something, right? And I understand
exactly what I'm saying. But if you're
saying we're hurting feelings,
being in the same room with someone,
it's called etiquette,
and they're not even talking to you, and they're not even bothering you, that's a you problem.
It is. But then that person doesn't show back up to the event. And
that's something for them to get over. I'm not responsible.
But like, don't you remember overcoming your first time being excluded based off your behavior and then like overcoming that and becoming more of like a authentic version of yourself that was more cool and more, like productive and helpful?
I can't empathize with that. I don't know what you mean.
Colonies in Prime. Like this guy, you're not going to get to him because he fundamentally thinks that words are equal to violence.
I'm not trying.
I'm getting to the person that's trying to like hear me out and like feel like does Colonies actually have a perspective I agree with? So in a way, Yo-Yo provides me like an ability to like provide the alternative view. And I think what's most important to me is like Yo-Yo is doing a great job of demonstrating like this is actually a pretty great example of what the average like FGC person feels like. It's not really deeper than this level. And honestly, Yo-Yo was pretty deep to do the double think thing. Like that was actually pretty real.
I do appreciate Yo-Yo a lot because I've been dealing with a lot of crazies lately that are just fucking off their rocker. So
to me, like, bro, you are the GOP, brother. We love you, man. It's great.
I am not the GOP. Fuck the GOP.
Whoa.
I'm just kidding. But I mean, you are the Republican voter base, right? And like, dude, they don't love your guys' attitude. And honestly, I want you to start being like more okay with that, right? Because like, man, like you're a human being and you have the right to be who you are. And I get that you don't like being like labeled as like a Nazi or whatever, but honestly, dude, fuck it.
Fuck trannies.
Okay, I don't know about all that because that was.
I'm being edgy.
You're being edgy, bro. Honestly, bro. Tenrio, you're kind of being like, I don't know, man. You're kind of scaring me, man. Like you set me up.
I'm scaring you. You haven't seen nothing yet, nigga. I'm kidding.
No. That was good.
Welcome to the
listen, guys. I'm just. Hold on,
Good
wait.
banter, W banter.
I'm genuinely just being edgy, like, you know.
Yeah,
like,
facts.
that's the problem. We can't like have this sort of like edgy humor, you know. I can't say anything like that, or channels get banned. Fucking
Yeah,
all this
and
other stuff,
honestly,
crazy
yo,
stuff
if you
happens.
want to know what most of these young right wing guys want, they just want to be edgy like that. Like they just want to fucking be able to like say the thing that
Bro,
they're not allowed to say.
bro,
I
I
get
get
that
it.
you hate that, but why are you allowed to call them Nazis and then they can't do that shit? Like you guys are
Because
doing the same
guess what?
impulse.
I'm an edgy kid too. I'm 100% like that. In my
Okay.
personal space, I'm an edgy guy. I like edgy humor. That's how I
Towards
am.
white people.
Like, give me an example. Just, I'm sorry, but
Waiting room.
Well,
or
he
He's
going
edgy
living?
towards white people.
That's the
That's
thing.
important.
I
No,
wouldn't say
no,
any-
bro.
you're like,
You
give me
say
a
these
joke
things
like that.
while
Like,
you're
what kind of
wow.
jokes do you like? Like, what kind of
You
jokes?
say these things while they're not looking.
I
Oh
like
no.
to be bigoted in private with my friends. Absolutely, it's funny to me. It's funny to me. Straight up, I won't lie.
No, facts. I actually know so many people that do that same shit. Like, especially like gay people. Like, they love that
Yeah,
humor.
Yeah, some of them do.
So
Absolutely.
why? Make it make fucking sense then.
He
Because
said he's a bigot
there's
in
a
the streets and
time-
zesty in the streets.
there's a place and a
Close
time
enough.
for everything. So when it comes down to it,
Okay.
when chips are down, I am not a bigot, like at all. I'm not. Like I stand up for trans people. I stand up for gay people. I stand up for all
But
minorities.
what if
like,
you made people
absolutely.
laugh as hard as you did in private? Like, wouldn't that feel like really like uplifting to the
I
whole
mean,
room?
sure, but then what if somebody doesn't feel good about that? What if somebody
Bro,
finds that
bro.
joke offensive?
Then
Bro
guess what?
literally has
A funny comedic moment just happened.
Bro literally
What if I
has a
didn't find that
public and
funny and they
private
didn't leave?
position. Bro, you're a bigot
Yeah,
in public,
I've
you're a
been bullied
bigot in
my entire-
private.
Wait,
It is
can
what
I
it is.
go off on
Welcome
this?
to bigotry.
Yeah, literally,
It's
bro.
not
Like
about
this
being a
is
bigot
kind of.
in private.
I want to go on a rant on this because this is so real. Okay, listen. Every single one of us is going to have like quote unquote evil thoughts that are funny. Everybody has a dark side. Everybody has a shadow. Nobody is existing in this like one track mind personality
Shadow the
that we.
Hedgehog so bad.
The truth is, bro, it's like if you really want to police people's like presence in your, environment because of their edgy jokes, like you're really like saying like you have to like appeal to my taste, my humor, my sensibilities
It's not
when
about
I'm
me.
comfortable
It's
with
not
it.
about me
What it's in
at all, bro. It's not about me at all. It's about the people who say that they're not
The
comfortable
people.
around the other people. It's
That's
about that.
them
And
problem.
that's the
They should grow
difference
up.
between me
wait.
and you.
Why are you
Wait,
advocating for
real
them?
quick, real
Is it because you relate, empathize? Like, is that about
yes,
you?
It's about empathy, my dude. It's about empathy. When it comes down to it, I care about other people's experiences
Not
more
Nazis
than my
though.
own. Because here's the deal. I do find a lot of that stuff funny. I have been
Okay.
I've been closer to you guys ideologically in the past,
Uh-oh.
but I listen to other people. I hear what they say, and I
Who
care
turned
about it.
you? Destiny? I can hear the destiny in you.
Destiny's
too high
interesting,
IQ
but
for
he's
him.
not my cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
if I can,
You don't gotta
bring this
expose. You don't
back
gotta
to a
expose. That's
central
okay.
point. Like I appreciate ICOU coming on, and I think I want to bring it to like I just want to make this point right here. The thing
Sure.
is, if I was to compare like ICOU and Tenrio, for example, like let's just give it an example. If we had ICOU as the ultimate emperor of all esports that deems who gets to play and who doesn't, right? And then we take a look, or we say, and then you make Tenrio the ultimate emperor of esports, decide who gets to play.
I will bring
For me,
peace,
Such a good argument.
freedom,
Such a good argument.
security, and justice to my new empire.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie. This is like a
For me
1v5, but that
personally-
was an L.
For me personally, I would most certainly vote Tenrio, and that's because just personally my values. I value more people being able to play over the social comfort of having a homogenous, similar one-to-one.
I would vote Tenrio because I know that it would make all of us richer. It would make all of us happier, and it would actually give like an equal opportunity to like both trans and Nazis to become top players.
If you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
I'll say one thing here. Like, yo, like, do you not understand like this whole feelings thing? It's nothing about it is consistent. Like, what if you didn't do anything wrong, but a bunch of women felt like you were bothering them, and then they all campaigned to get you out because
You got to also not give them the ick, bro. But I hear you on that. You know,
but it's no.
We got to work on that though.
Yeah, my point is that you can feel any way about anything. There's no, you can say something and two people will feel the exact opposite way.
Yo, has that ever happened to you? You ever been like labeled a creep? Like even when you were a kid, when I was in like middle school, this girl literally came up and kicked me as hard as she fucking could in the balls because one of my friends literally lied and said that I like was looking at her ass. We were like 12.
So
can you relate to that at all? Because that's how it actually does like come off to
That's kind of what getting canceled feels like sometimes.
I can't directly relate to that. Like I can't.
Okay.
But,
all right.
Like I do.
Yeah, that was unlucky.
With you, I empathize with you guys, but I also empathize with other people because like when I understand where you're coming from. If like people say that about you and that's like absolutely not how you are, that's fucked up. Obviously, but
now I have a question.
There's
for you,
usually a
real
reason
quick.
people do accuse people of stuff like that. That's
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
I do have a question, guys. Wait. Time out. I do have a question for Yo-Yo. Let's say, for example, if you actually going back to Mech's point, you had the power, and you say you do empathize with us. However, you empathize more with the people who feel like, what we're saying is like bigoted and unsafe or whatever. Would you ban me being that you have the power to do that?
Exactly. I'm sorry.
Would you like not include me in the community?
So like if your friends were saying Tenryo is gonna like hurt our feelings if he's in the community and you were emperor, would you ban him?
Absolutely not. No, so I'm sorry, bro. No, absolutely not. No, you are not.
What does that mean? Like, no, he's not allowed, or what is it?
Yeah, I see. There might be something with your mic, but
I think he's trying to fix it.
He would.
I'm actually super curious. Did this break the matrix?
This is why I brought up the point in the first place. It's because what matters most is competing. That's why I put in the title competition first.
I even tried to like restate it for you, Tenryo. That's crazy.
That's what caused this whole divide. Is that we can't all play. Some people getting banned. Some people get in that cancel class where they actually get slandered upon. It's encouraged not to associate with those people, and it's like they get figuratively kicked really hard in the balls, right? Just as Colinies brought up his story,
yeah, that's a true story, by the way.
So I mean, ICOYO looks like is your mic working now?
What's crazy about that story?
Matt, if you could mute your mic as well, because Yes, because it's actually giving it an echo while I'm talking.
It's crazy because that story, I forgave that girl, and then I also she dated one of my best friends later on in life, and I brought it up to her one time, and dude, the guilt on her fucking face was insane. And these people, most people aren't really that self-conscious or something or like aware, and they really forget that they did that to someone, and it's like, yeah, we were kids and shit. I didn't give a fuck. I had long since forgiven her, but it had become a tool of mine to explain this sort of feeling.
Right, it's the phenomenon.
Yeah. Go ahead, Yo-Yo.
Do you remember the question?
No, you're good. You're good.
So I had a good response. Fuck, I'm mad. Tenryo, you're not allowed at any event I ever do. Like, nah, you're done.
You will try.
Okay, Yo-Yo. Well, honestly, bro, there it is. And there it is.
Unpack it. Is it
dude's friends with Nick Fuentes? Dude's actively.
Oh my God! What? He's friends with Nick Fuentes. What does that mean to you? What does that
Only
mean?
a faggot deals in absolutes.
What does that mean to you? He's friends with someone
who's a Nazi.
Oh, he's a Nazi. See what you're doing right here? You're not allowed to think right here. Why?
I did not see that coming.
Nazi at my event. Nope, absolutely.
Bruh. There it is.
And you're a pedophile.
And guess what? Trans are allowed at our events.
Yeah.
So why are you winning? Why are you? Well, I empathize with trans people. Don't you realize that Nazis can actually understand like the feeling of being like, ostracized by society?
I have to genuinely ask here, why are we?
Wait 1 sec. Sorry, guys. I just have to make this point. So yesterday, I actually had somebody that was a Marxist on my stream, and we were debating because they're an open Marxist, and they were calling everybody Nazi. They're calling Art a Nazi, calling people that were, Matt a Nazi, And so I just brought him on the stream in a Twitter space, and he's an open Marxist, mind you. So I said, all I did was bring up a point. I was like, okay, what if I said that the Marxist doctrine has killed far more than the Nazism and what Nazi led to? What would you say then? Nazism, have the sources, Max killed 17 million, according to this same source that says that Marxism killed 94 to over 100 million.
Why did
and he couldn't handle
kill
that.
people? And why did
It was
Marxism
war.
kill people?
It was war. It's the biggest war in the history of the world, bruh. Everyone, everybody killed it.
Why did Marxism kill people?
Because it was based off of a polemic idea of like us versus them. They not like us. They not like us. And then they put them on fucking guillotines and cut their heads off. Yeah, what? Class warfare? Class consciousness?
No, that's
bourgeoisie versus
in the Soviet Union, dude. They died because they were hungry and they were surveillance.
What the fuck? He's right. They were deliberately starved to death.
Well, dude, you might starve if the country fucking falls into this. Okay. First of all, what about a gulag? Like, you mean in the gulags, right? Like, where they were put in as political prisoners and like
talking about that.
Like their wounds were repossessed.
Talking about Ukraine, like the Holodomor.
That died were starved.
But that's because
they were starved.
That were other.
So you're saying Marxism is a failed ideology? Is that the argument?
It is.
Like, you're saying you're not necessarily taking that position, right?
Far away from my I do think I think there's good things and bad things in Marxism. Yeah.
Well, there's good things and bad things.
I actually agree with that, by the way. No, and that's actually so fucking real.
You can't have the double standard, right? So
don't you see that Stalin is like a radical? Don't you see that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't like Stalin.
Somebody that's an open Marxist.
Okay, do you like Hassan Piker?
No.
I do. I kind of like him. I don't like that I like him.
I don't like him.
I don't like that I like him, but I do find him like more honest and like a guy like you who's like, you know, he does do that same shit, but like he actually like in his private time like studies like how like the world leaders of history like thought. Yeah.
This guy thinks that racism is worse than murder. Literally. You think that people saying mean words is worse?
Well, that is like a lot of I mean that's people do feel that way, I guess.
Yeah, particularly black people like him. To be completely honest here.
I mean that's pretty true.
It is.
No, I mean that's pretty true actually. I mean I think, you know, there was some emotional charge to that. I wouldn't necessarily.
I fucking love
All
Hitler.
right,
I actually know a lot of black people that feel that way too. I know a lot.
Yo, guys, sorry, I'm gonna mute it just because I actually do have to go in a minute here. But Art is the co-host, and I'm just gonna send it over to him, and you guys can continue speaking. But I'm actually gonna end my stream and try and figure out why the Twitch got banned and stuff like that. But yeah. Thanks a lot for everything. I'm actually gonna head out now, and hopefully this space
later, Nazi.
Later, guys.
Later, Mac. Thanks for helping.